7 p.m. The town board has returned from executive session and nothing has been voted on in executive session. We'd like to make a motion. Tonight we have a public hearing, to open a public hearing on Duchess Golf Course property. Anybody here to discuss Duchess Golf Course property?
You opened the public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, members of the town board. Rebecca Volk of the law firm of Mackey, Butts & Wise for the applicant seeking the rezoning. We did a presentation to this board. I have submitted to the clerk a copy of our affidavit that we mailed notices of this evening's public hearing. So unless there's any other questions from the board for me, I would ask that you turn this over for public comment.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Volk at this time? No? Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to discuss the golf course project on 2628 Route 9? If not, Neil, do you have a date which you would like to adjourn this to?
Yeah, Neil Wilson, Town Development Director. Yes, the first meeting in April, the Planning Board, which is the lead agency, still needs to address seeker. They will not meet until March 16th, which is the day after this board's next regular meeting.
So is that April 5th, Neil, at 7
Yes.
o'clock?
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be the suggested adjournment date.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn this to April 5th? Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Scratch it here. Just for record, Joe Conti's left sick.
It's this.
Oh, is that what it is?
It's a hearing device. And it's going to
Oh,
Give him the wrong thing?
it makes noises.
No, it shouldn't.
Well, he's fiddling with it, and it's corresponding with sound.
There's another
I
one?
wonder if is that, did we hand him a mic by
You might
mistake?
have handed him a It's a mic.
All right, we'll wait 1 second, see if we can address this.
It is a microphone. Sorry.
It's a virus or something.
You can proceed.
We can proceed then. Thank you, Mrs. Cullen. All right. Our second public hearing for tonight is on Chapter 146 of Open Space Preservation Law. The motion to open that public hearing? So moved. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Is there anybody here to discuss Chapter 146 of the Open Space Preservation Law? Doreen, step right up.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, before you go to public comment on this, did you want to propose an amendment to the proposed local law? There was a clause you were talking about banning.
If I could find the clause, we'll agree with you. The clause is our resolution of refunding any money that we have received at this time.
Right. So where it reads, Chapter 146 of the Town of Poughkeepsie Zoning Code entitled Open Space Preservation is hereby repealed in its entirety, and the comptroller shall refund the monies on hand to the applicants.
So moved. A second?
Second.
All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Amendment passes 6-0. Doreen, sorry.
That's okay. So I looked at the video of the last meeting where the resolution was read, and there was no discussion that took place as to why this was happening. So I'm not sure about the detail on that, but I did look at Chapter 146, and there's a section in there, 146-4, and letter C for trees. And since you're removing the whole chapter, it's not clear to me if this section 4C regarding any trees that are removed need to be paid $500 to the open space fund, trees improperly removed. So is there somewhere that if a tree is improperly removed and there's a fine that it's going to be moved to some other section of the town code?
Neil, you want to come speak on it? You addressed it. He'll probably know better than me.
Yeah, we actually have a provision in the tree preservation chapter that talks about collections of fines for improper removal of trees, and there's schedules for replanting and that sort of thing. So it is addressed there. The other thing, too, is that we also, as part of our normal site plan enforcement through the zoning administrator, on occasion, we will also collect civil fines, and they're actually turned into the general fund, so they're not into a dedicated open space or other trust, but we do collect those fines on occasion.
I say to during the table, we can sit down and discuss that section if we think there's a way we can redirect some of that fund money to a different source.
Okay, and then, thank you. The only other thing is, if you're removing Chapter 146, it would seem that you should remove all references to it in the town code. And Chapter 105-4 fee schedule references a series of fees for Chapter 146, which would then no longer be applicable. So I would have thought that when you were doing one, well, I know sometimes we hear that as a cleanup and it doesn't end up getting done, but I would suggest then that 105-4 fee schedule be removed for Chapter 146.
Can we get a motion? I'd like to add a 105-4 fee schedule for that be added to this.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Pardon me, who moved and seconded the second amendment?
I second it.
Thank you. And the motion was yours, Jay?
Yep.
Pardon.
Is there anybody else that would like to discuss Chapter 146 of the Open Space Preservation Law? No? If not, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Motion second, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Jeff?
Resolution number 2, correct? Mm-hmm. Resolution number 2, being enacted that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie pursuant to a public hearing held on the first day of March 2017 at 7 p.m. at the town hall, town of Poughkeepsie, 1 Over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, does here amend the town code chapter 146 entitled Open Space Preservation, and be it further enacted that the proposed amendment is attached hereto and incorporated herein, and the town board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of said amendments and does direct that the said amendments be spread across the record as if they in fact had been read verbatim, and be it further enacted the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie has determined that this action is a type 2 action requiring no environmental review, and be it further enacted that the legal notice of the public hearing was posted on February 17, 2017, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on February 21st, 2017, and be it further enacted that the said local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. So moved.
Second. We have a motion second on this. Is there any questions or comments on this? The only comment is over the years we had this, we have not expended any money on this on what we took in. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Resolution 3.
Nope, it's another public hearing. Resolution 3 is a public hearing for 2 Meadow Drive for basically unmaintained property. I make a motion in the open public hearing number 3 for 2 Meadow Drive.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think, are we setting the date for this one?
Yes, we are, and I am.
Yes, it's not a public hearing yet, we're just saying the date.
Go ahead and read it, it's all yours. I made the mistake this time.
Okay, whereas the building department of the town of Poughkeepsie has pursuant to Town Code Section 71 Sub 5 submitted an unsafe building investigation report dated January 24th, 2017 to the Town Board of the town of Poughkeepsie regarding 2 Meadowview Drive, town of Poughkeepsie, county of Dutchess, state of New York, tax grid number 616004701204, hereafter known as the premise. The owner of record being James J. Burns, Jr., 2 Meadowview Drive, Poughkeepsie, showing that the premises and the building honored are dangerous and unsafe to the general public, open at the doorways and windows, infested with insects, accessible to and a haven for vagrants, trespassers, crime suspects, and illegal activity, and that they are unsanitary and present a health, fire, and public health hazard. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby waive a verbatim reading of the attached investigative report and does hereby adopt said report and directs that they be spread across the record as if they had in fact been read verbatim. And be it further resolved that a public hearing on the order and notice, including the recovery, levy, and collection of town expenses as an ad valorem levy, will be held before the Town Board on April 5th, 2017 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 over Rock Road, Poughkeepsie, New York. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that was my mistake. We have a small agenda besides this. Number 5 is a worldwide Parkinson's disease awareness month proclamation. Number 6 is reappoint Scott Cleveland to the plumbing board. Number 7 is a change order for Arlington Treatment Plant for Blue Heron for increase of rock they found down there. Number 8 is accept the retirement of Detective Joseph Chorba. Number 9 is a tax cert for Tucker Drive. Number 10 is authorize the Director of Recreation to sign field concession use agreements for multiple organizations. 11, notification claims, O'Neill Group Dutton versus the town, Haddad versus the town. Number 12 is special consent items. We have 2 of them. Special consent 1 is an unsafe building at 245 Wilbur Boulevard. And SC2 is a retained Vanderwater for Raymond Avenue project. I'd like to make a motion at this time to suspend the rules for any item on the agenda.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody here who would like to discuss any item on the agenda? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Brennan, and I had sent a letter to the board.
Could you do us a favor and just stand so you can get on the microphone?
Okay, sorry. And Attorney General Eric Schneiderman has issued a set of guidance to adopt to not let our local law enforcement be involved with the detention of undocumented immigrants in our community. And personally, I would not like to see my tax dollars used and our local law enforcement be detained to pursue these things. I think there's an economic issue, being an agricultural community. So I just wanted to push this issue and see if anybody had any questions or if there's any support or not. One of the things the provisions does protect us as a community from any lawsuits. So I feel very strongly we should adopt these.
We'll discuss with the board. This is actually something that's not on the agenda, so it should have been brought up at the end. Yeah.
I apologize.
No, that's okay.
All right. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to bring up Doreen?
Yeah, Jay, I was wondering if you had a chance to check on the number 9, the tax cert for Tucker Drive.
The reason that was, Doreen, as we discussed, they just file them, and when the lawyer filed them, they took them to court. They took them in a handful because they're usually asked to contact the assessing department to work it out. They just never wanted to contact, so it was not a big amount of money filed. So if he went in with 9 tax certs, that was just one of the ones listed, and it was not a big expense. She sent a very small amount, but the attorney wasn't local, so he didn't go forth like most of them doing to work it out with the assessor prior. He just pushed it towards the court, so Kyle bought it and addressed it in the court, and they just sent it back and they settled. It wasn't a big drawn out. We didn't have to go get surveys and all that, work done.
Okay, just to make it clear, it was because I wondered why we had paid an attorney to go forward on this when it was such a small amount that was being refunded to the applicant and didn't seem worth hiring an attorney for. So
He said they called and they just didn't respond, so he addressed it at the court, but it was really when he had a whole handful of other ones, so there was no real big expense to that one.
Okay,
But thanks for bringing that up.
okay.
Does anybody else like to address the board for any items on the agenda? If not, make a motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Four, right?
Yep.
Be resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application of Ashley Confarrell of Crunch Fitness to hold a Crunch 5K to benefit Anderson Center for Autism on Sunday, April 30th, 2017. Location of which run is from Crunch Fitness to Crown Heights. And be it further resolved that the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the application for said annual run as submitted, pending approval from Town of Poughkeepsie Police Department and a receipt of certificate of liability insurance, namely the Town of Poughkeepsie as an additional insured. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Pardon me.
Read that for me.
Want me to read it?
Yeah, please.
Whereas Parkinson's disease is a progressive neurological movement disorder of the central nervous system, which has a unique impact on each patient, and whereas according to the Parkinson's Action Network, the Parkinson's Disease Foundation, the American Parkinson's Disease Association, and the National Institute of Health, there are over 1 million Americans diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And whereas symptoms include slowness, tremor, difficulty with balance, weak and rigidity, cognitive and memory problems, and whereas although new medicines and therapies may enhance life for some time for people with Parkinson's, more work is needed for a cure. And whereas increased education and research are needed to help find more effective treatments with fewer side effects and ultimately a cure for Parkinson's disease. And whereas a multidisciplinary approach to Parkinson's disease care includes local wellness support and caregiver groups, and whereas April has been proclaimed as Worldwide Parkinson's Awareness Month, for all to recognize the need for more research and help in dealing with the devastating effects of Parkinson's disease. Now therefore be it resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie proudly proclaims the month of April 2017 as Parkinson's Awareness Month and encourages all municipal officials, citizens, and visitors to participate in scheduled activities to learn about Parkinson's disease. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any questions on that one?
Thank you for reading this to me.
And we have a proclamation for the Parkinson's Society, whereas Parkinson's disease is a prognosis, neurological movement disorder, central nervous system, which has a unique impact on each patient, whereas according to the Parkinson's Action Network, Parkinson's Foundation, American Parkinson's Disease, and the National Institute of Health, there are over 1 million Parkinson's disease cases, whereas symptoms include slowness, tremors, balance, speech and rigidity, cognitive and memory problems, and whereas although new medicines and therapies may enhance life for some time for people with Parkinson's, more work is needed for a cure, whereas increased education and research are needed to help find more effective treatments with fewer side effects and ultimately a cure for Parkinson's, and whereas the multidisciplinary approach to Parkinson's care includes local wellness support and caregiver groups, whereas April proclaimed World Parkinson's Awareness Month for all to recognize the need for more research and help dealing with this. Now, therefore, John J. Baisley, Supervisor and Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie, proclaim April as Parkinson's Awareness Month in 2017. And under my hand in each free United States and Town of Poughkeepsie on this day of 2017, into which I cause the seal of the Town of Poughkeepsie to be fixed and made this proclamation public. And this is definitely something that's close to home, and if everybody would pay attention and really get involved, and everybody's got a different event that touches their family, and this one touches mine, and there's other ones out there. Everybody could get involved and help maybe make more cures for some of these diseases. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Be resolved, the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby reappoint Scott Cleveland to the Plumbing Board of Examiners of the Town of Poughkeepsie, which term is effective January 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2019. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Whereas in reference to Arlington WWTP rehabilitation project, additional contract work in the amount of $202,857.42 is required for rock excavation and abatement of existing transit pipe as described in the attached change order. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor to sign change order number 2 to Blue Heron Construction Company. So moved.
Second.
The motion second. Any questions on this one? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Be it resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby accept with regret the requirement of Joseph V. Chorba, Detective with the Town of Poughkeepsie Police Department, effective end of business day, March 24th, 2017. So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second on this one. Any questions or comments on this?
Sometimes I think when we have a member of service retire like this, the one paragraph we put in, and I know how everybody feels about it, seems to be small compared to what that person did for all of us for 20-something years. These men and women put bulletproof vests on and take guns and go out to protect us. I don't know of any other profession in the world that does something like that. And I want to personally thank Joe for the work he's done, extensive work in our town. Chief, if we wouldn't mind, just please make sure he knows. I think I speak for the whole board.
You absolutely do, and he was another one that's been with us quite a few years. He came from Newburgh years ago, and Joe was definitely a phenomenal officer. You asked, and he never disregarded anything you said. Yes, well, he will surely be missed.
I was fortunate enough to work with Joe as a correctional officer at Fishkill prior to him becoming a police officer, and I was fortunate enough to be able to work with him again in the town, and I watched him move on from a police officer and moved up to the K-9 unit and then to the undercover drug task force, and he's done a lot, and he's certainly he's earned his retirement. I know he's got something else. I don't know quite what it is, but he's earned his retirement from the police department, and he'll be missed.
Yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the settlement of the taxatory proceeding instituted by Tucker Drive LLC for the tax assessment rolls for 2015 and 2016, as shown on the attached judgment. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor or his designee, town assessor, and Kyle Barnett of Vanderwater and Vanderwater LLP to sign such papers as necessary to effectuate said settlement. So move.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one? No. The only comment is, as Doreen brought up, this was a very small settlement, which was odd because it went from $414,000 to $385,000, and their settlement's only $277. So she called and we discussed with Kathleen that it was basically putting in a group, so it was not a lot of money expended on it. We didn't have to go out and get any surveys or anything done or any other assessments done or anything. So thank God it didn't cost us much. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Resolution 10, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor to execute field license agreements between the Town of Poughkeepsie and the Town of Poughkeepsie Little League Girls Softball, Inc., Town of Poughkeepsie Soccer Club, Inc., Poughkeepsie Mid-Hudson Babe Ruth, Inc., and Town of Poughkeepsie Little League, Inc., in substantially the form presented, and be it further resolved that executing these agreements involves ongoing town administration and is a Type 2 action requiring no secret review. So moved.
Second.
The motion second. Any questions on these? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Number 11 is a notification of the following claims referred to legal: O'Neill Dutton versus the town, and Haddad versus the town. Be it resolved, Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby grant special consent to the following items to wit: 1, set the public date for public hearing, unsafe building 245 Wilbur Boulevard. And number 2 is retain Vanderwater and Vanderwater Raymond Avenue project. And be it further resolved that upon the objection of any member of the Town Board, an item may be removed from the list and voted on separately. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Special concern number 2, whereas the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie has been presented with the proposal to reform Arthur's as Mary School property in Raymond Avenue. We require specialized legal the property conducting its review for the issue presented now therefore be resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby retain Vanderwater and Vanderwater LLP to represent the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie in the above matter of the rates of $165 per hour for partners, $155 per hour for associates, and $100 per hour for paralegals, which is fee will be paid for the application in escrow. So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions on this one?
Neil, can you elaborate on what the issues presented are? I thought this was moving along.
It is.
This is actually sort of teeing it up to make sure we have our legal team in place in particular. I've had some conversations. There have been no applications submitted for the redevelopment, but the conversations I'm having indicate that they will be looking for some changes to the code as well. So I thought that it was prudent at this time. I've spoken with Jim. I've talked to Ron Blass, as Jim's partner, and Ron is a very, very capable and qualified land use attorney, and I think we're going to need his assistance on this one. So it's just getting it ready for when we actually have those conversations coming up.
And you're right, this really is a key piece of property in the town. It is significant, and we want it done right.
Right.
Significant to Arlington, very significant to the Arlington area. Could make or break Arlington. Yeah.
Well,
no, I think it could.
It could definitely enhance Arlington a great deal. If it's done correctly.
Absolutely. It's 6.5 acres in the middle of Arlington. I mean, the redevelopment of that site is, in my opinion, we can call it an anchor if you want. And I think that it has the potential, if we do it right, if we manage it right, to really, hopefully spur some redevelopment of some of the other properties that need some help in that area.
Yes.
So, but anyway, this is basically putting the team together in advance of receiving any application.
Okay.
The motion a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. You want to take the last one then?
I'll read the last one. Whereas the building department of the town of Poughkeepsie has, pursuant to Town Code 71-5, submitted an unsafe building investigation report dated February 22nd, 2017 to the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie regarding 245 Wilbur Boulevard, Town of Poughkeepsie, County of Dutchess, State of New York, tax grid number 616001. 295539, the premise. The owner of record being Stanley C. Millspaugh or his successor as trustee of Stanley C. Millspaugh Living Trust dated 4/20/1994, and Bernice B. Millspaugh or her successors as trustee of Bernice B. Millspaugh Living Trust dated 4/20/1994, each as to an undivided half interest as tenants in the common, shown among other things that the premise and the building on it are dangerous and unsafe to the general public, open at the doorways and windows, infested with insects, accessible to and a haven for vagrants, trespassers, crime suspects, and illegal activity, and that they are unsanitary and present a health, fire, and public health hazard. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby waive a verbatim reading of the attached investigation report and does hereby adopt the said report and direct that they be spread across the record as if, in fact, they have been read verbatim, and be further resolved the public hearing on the order and notice included the recovery levy and collection of town expenses as an ad valorem levy will be held before the Town Board on April 5th, 2017 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Poughkeepsie, 1 over Rocker Road, Poughkeepsie, New York. So moved.
Second.
The motion second. Any questions on this one? No. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Coming to the end of our agenda for tonight, I'd like to make a motion to suspend rules for any item relating to the town at all.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody would like to speak?
Hello. My name is Ed Sayago. I'm a resident of New Hamburg and officer of the New Hamburg Neighborhood Association. I want to make a brief statement about the Bottini litigation. A lot has been made of the cost and the impact on the town's budget and individual taxes in this matter. In fact, several requests have been made to this board by regular observers to disclose the cost of this litigation, with the suggestion that New Hamburg's traffic safety concerns are somehow outweighed by the financial burden on the town at large. Well, let's put this into perspective. If we use the Tilcon case as an example, I have previously FOIA'd the spend data. We can arrive at an admittedly unscientific approximation of what this cost could be to taxpayers. I believe this is a credible approach, since recent reporting has used a similar method to calculate the savings per person nationally associated with the current administration's funding cuts, which in some cases yield savings per person of less than $1. Rounding the total Tilcon spend to $60,000 from November 2009 to April 2015, and dividing that by an approximate population of 45,000, assuming all are taxpayers, equals a cost per taxpayer of $1.33. Even if you were to multiply that number by 10, you would get a cost of $13.33 per person. So let's please move away from the politicized tax argument and focus on the safety and well-being of residents. It's New Hamburg Ward 1 now, but it could be any one of your wards next. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Stacy Messler, good evening. I'm also a resident of New Hamburg, and I'm here to talk about the Botini litigation and the pending settlement between the town of Poughkeepsie and the Botini Company. You made a commitment to the residents of New Hamburg when you enacted the traffic regulations, and it was a commitment that we relied on. And in connection with that commitment, when the Botini Company filed the federal lawsuit as they threatened against the town defended the lawsuit. They defended it, and several members of the board and employees of the town of Poughkeepsie signed affidavits in connection with that litigation. An affidavit that's signed in connection with litigation is signed under penalties of perjury. That means that the person that signed that is swearing under oath that what he says in that statement is true. So I would like to read to you a few of the statements from the affidavits from this town board and from town of Poughkeepsie employees in connection with that litigation. So this is the former supervisor, Todd Tancredi, under penalties of perjury. The board specifically wanted to address the safety, health, and quiet enjoyment of property concerns.
Pull back from the mic at half an inch.
Okay. The board specifically wanted to address the safety, health, and quiet enjoyment of property concerns raised by the members of the New Hamburg Neighborhood Association that had presented their issues to the board. In particular, we, the town board, were concerned about the congestion of roadways by the tractor trailers and tankers, the apparent damage to roadways from the weight of tankers and trailers, the risk to school children attempting to navigate the roadways on the way to and from bus stops, and the complaints by the residents that their sleep was interrupted by loud noises, rumbling, and backup alarms of the tanker trailers going to and from the terminal at all hours of the day and night. In fact, there was not only ample opportunity for the plaintiffs to have their position heard by the town board, but the town board sufficiently evaluated the issues and considerations concerning the local law such that the board passed an amendment to the original local law allowing Sunday hours of 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. from November 1 to March 31, specifically identified as allowing for emergencies that might arise. Furthermore, the town board considered the fact that the terminal was an ongoing business in the town and had to balance the business interests with the safety of the public. Therefore, the town decided to limit the times for tractor trailers driving on the roadways in order to permit school children to go to the bus stop before school and to walk home from the bus stop after school, with them having less concern about having to navigate tractor trailer filled roads. This situation has not changed. This affidavit was filed under penalties of perjury. There has been no change in New Hamburg. This is from the town traffic sergeant in opposition to the motion for preliminary injunction, also signed under penalties of perjury. The roads in the hamlet of New Hamburg are residential roads, with some having no center line or shoulder striping and no specifically designated lanes of travel for two-way traffic. In my experience and to my knowledge, tractor trailers require a turning radius of 55 feet. That means a tractor trailer making a turn on town roads will require at times a width that is larger than that of the current hamlet roadways. As a result, when a tractor trailer makes turns from one roadway to another in the hamlet of New Hamburg, going to and from the terminal, the tractor trailer may interfere with traffic traveling on the other road because it must drive into the other lane to complete a turn. This is the affidavit of then Councilman First Ward Rep John J. Baisley in opposition to the motion for preliminary injunction, also sworn under penalties of perjury. The board addressed the quality of life and quiet enjoyment of property concerns raised by the members of the New Hamburg Neighborhood Association that have presented their issues to the board. In particular, I was concerned about the congestion of roadways by the tractor trailers and tankers. He was concerned. Additionally, it should be noted that the New Hamburg Neighborhood Association initially put forward requests to the town board that all tanker truck trailer traffic and large truck activity be prohibited. However, upon consideration of the issues and the following discussions with all interested parties and review and consideration of submissions from those residents on all sides of the issues, including plaintiffs and from plaintiffs themselves, the town board developed a compromise position contained in the local laws that were ultimately passed and which are now challenged in the lawsuit. The board gave serious consideration to all testimony and submissions from concerned residents and plaintiffs and their representatives. The hamlet of New Hamburg within the town of Poughkeepsie is densely built up with a mix of residential, commercial, and recreational uses, but mostly residential within the hamlet. The local laws were necessary because of the large tankers and tractor trailers. That's Jay Baisley's affidavit to the court, sworn under penalties of perjury. And as far as I can tell, nothing has changed. So it's very unclear to New Hamburg residents why, after acting for our safety, negotiating the laws, that you would pull back in any way. These laws were already compromised. Perhaps you're concerned about tax dollars. I don't know. I can't fathom it. Perhaps you think it's only about New Hamburg and that other residents in the town of Poughkeepsie don't care. Well, I promise you that I am going to fill this town board hall with residents from every ward in Poughkeepsie. Your voters, your constituents, your families, your parents are all going to be packing this boardroom in support of New Hamburg. Nobody in the town of Poughkeepsie wants to see this happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move it over in the corner there. Good evening.
Good evening. Is there a time limit on these comments?
Try to keep them to 5 minutes, Virginia.
Thank you. Get my thoughts back together. In reviewing tonight's agenda and reviewing that you were going to withdraw the open space chapter, it came to my mind that it's been 10 years since this town passed its master plan. I believe the rule of thumb was that the master plan should be reviewed like every 5. So I thought maybe the town might want to consider a master plan review committee. I think it would be a good time. And why do I think that? Because I may not always be at these meetings, but I do watch the videos. and I do check the agendas, and it seems like there has been an inordinate amount of rezonings. And when rezonings become the rule of thumb, I think it's time for a review. When variances become the rule of thumb, I think it's time for a review of the code, along with a review of the master plan. I even recently watched a video where somebody was granted a variance to park on their front lawn in Fairview. So I'm concerned. I'm concerned with all the overlays, whether it be a SHOD, a PROD, or whatever, the rezonings of commercial into residential neighborhoods. There was a comment made recently by a member of this board, which I will not name, back at a public hearing in December for the Hudson River Psychiatric Center project, Hudson Heritage, that a certain entity in this town was not doing any planning. As a former member of that board, I would totally disagree with that comment. And I would also like to add that it is very difficult to plan when the playing field is constantly changing, and changing more rapidly than you can plan for. So in order to assist developers and other taxing entities within this town, I believe it is pertinent that this town review its master plan and cease with the consistent rezoning and variances, which make it very difficult for any entity within this town to plan. I would also, and I don't know if this is permissible or not, but regarding SC2, the Raymond Avenue project, I heard 6.5 acres mentioned. Can you define what that project is?
It's the old school, Virginia.
It's the Arthur S. Bay School.
Yeah.
Right, and here we are again. Truck up another one. Another rezoning. It's very difficult to plan. I've sat on the board, and you're all familiar with what board I sat on. It's very, very difficult to plan when the playing field keeps changing, and changing rapidly with each rezoning. Give us a master plan. Give us a game plan to play by, and we can play. But if you're constantly changing the rules with overlays, which were originally poo-pooed when we were discussing the master plan back in 2007, I recall Doreen asking for a open space preservation overlay, and nobody wanted to talk about overlays. Our planners didn't like overlays at that time. Since that time, we've had overlay after overlay, and they're passed quickly and difficult to plan for. So I ask that you institute a master plan review committee and help us all in this town be able to plan better. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board?
Good evening. My name is Andrea Sayago. I'm a resident of New Hamburg, and I'm also a member. Am I not? You can't hear me?
No.
Oh, how about now? I'm afraid to talk too close.
Try the other one. The other one looked better.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. I'm coming up here before all of you because I want to make some comments about the private mediation between the town and Botini. And looking back kind of over all the months leading up to the enactment of vehicles and traffic laws that are at issue in the lawsuit, the residents came to all of you with a lot of evidence, and not just statements by residents, but actually truck counts, video evidence, photographs. We really felt it was important to make it abundantly clear to all of you that this was a real and valid public safety issue. And all of you responded by enacting those laws and As my neighbor pointed out, the statements made by Sergeant Jiha and by Representative Baisley and former Supervisor Todd Tancredi, that you all agreed that these were real, valid, substantive public safety issues, and that something needed to be done, and that the laws were enacted in order to rectify that issue. And as Stacy also correctly pointed out, nothing has changed for us in New Hamburg. All those statements are still true. Nothing's changed in the town. The roads are still the same. There's still no sidewalks. There's still kids there. There's still bus stops along the truck route. And it's really important for us to understand, or make sure that you all understand that the facts that exist that support the issue are real. And in fact, there was an article that was put out by the Poughkeepsie Journal back in January of this year, on January 6, 2017, that stated that based on DEC data that was obtained that tracks the oil record, oil received at the terminal increased 500% between the year 2012-13 season to the year 2014-15 season. 500%. We all came to you and said, something has changed. And while Bottini argued repetitively that no, it's always been business as usual, the facts remain clear. Something changed. His business changed. And so I really want to understand what's changed for all of you. You all knew there was a litigation that was likely to occur. He made it clear that he was going to sue. I mean, it was totally and completely obvious based on that meeting on the 19th of August in 2015. And you guys passed the law, knowing that that was a likely outcome. And in fact, after the 19th, when there was the delay to vote through on the laws, there was a lot of snickering in the crowd, and I wrote a letter apologizing for that to all of you. And Mr. Trufone wrote back and said, "Hello, Mrs. Playago, and this is an email dated August 22nd, 2015. I appreciate your letter and understand, and no apology needed from anyone, as I too was disappointed that we had to delay our decision. But given the circumstances, even if Mr. Nelson was available, I would have requested he look over the documents for more than a cursory review. With that being said, my goal is to support the New Hamburg Neighborhood Association with a decision that will withstand the legal challenges that are expected to arise. We've heard from all of you. You knew he was going to sue. So I asked all of you, what's changed? If all of you have known that there was a litigation risk, why are we now considering another compromise? Why now do you want to settle so badly? What happened for all of you? Because nothing's changed for any of us. And so we want to know why there's now a desire to settle this, because clearly the cost really isn't the issue here. There's something else. I mean, you're all elected officials, and as such you have an obligation to your constituents, particularly when it comes to public safety. And, I want everyone from New Hamburg to stand up so you get an idea. We found out that this was, you guys were going to be meeting today, and this was what we could, people came within 1 day's notice. In fact, we sent out the notice this morning. I can tell you right now, we are a very motivated bunch of people. We are absolutely not going to back down without a fight. These laws are necessary to protect the public safety of the residents of New Hamburg. And we are counting on all of you to stand by the commitment that you made to all of us when you enacted those laws. And, the mediations and negotiation, I know all about negotiation. I do that for a living. And I understand that, with negotiation, both sides have to give. But our public safety can't be compromised. Bottini's proven to all of you time and again over the years that he has no respect for the rule of law. He acts now and answers questions later. Just look at, the evidence that exists for, the property he had back on Sheaf Road all those years ago that he wanted to use, and you had to fight him in court to, uphold the zoning laws on that. Then he falsified permit applications to the DEC 2 times. He has a pre-existing non-conforming use, and he needed to make changes to the property that expanded the size of his property. Town of Poughkeepsie zoning laws require for properties that are pre-existing non-conforming uses, you have to get a waiver. You have to get a variance in order to enlarge the parcel. There's no, calculations made for how much you're going to enlarge it. It's very, very clear. Must have it. He wrote on his DEC applications that no permits were necessary from the town. Just does what he wants, acts with impunity. This is what you're negotiating with. and you're giving away our public safety as a result. And I really just don't, none of us really can understand what's changed for all of you. Because again, nothing has changed for any of us. And the other thing that's really concerning is that if you're in a negotiation with respect to these zoning, to these laws and noise ordinances or zoning laws or whatever it is that you are discussing as part of your mediation process, because we have no idea really what it is other than givebacks are on the table. Any changes to those laws require public notice and a hearing. But what's the point in all of that if you've already agreed to the outcome? If you've already agreed to settle and you've agreed to what the terms of the settlement are, the public notice and the public hearing is a sham. None of us are going to be able to change your minds. And that's absolutely ridiculous. That's a violation of law. State law prevents you from negotiating away your legislative rights. You can't do that. You also can't bind other boards within the town. And so I ask all of you really to ask yourselves, what has changed for all of you? Nothing has changed for any of us. We are depending upon you to protect us, to protect our public safety. And not only for me and all my neighbors, for our children, and for anyone that moves to New Hamburg in the future. So please, take that into consideration as you're in this negotiation process, because there's a lot at stake. And it's not just a view, it's our safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Cullen.
Good evening. My name is David Cullen. I'm a long-term resident of New Hamburg and co-chairman of the New Hamburg Neighborhood Association. Just for the record, the association is a group of nearly 100 householders living in the hamlet of New Hamburg. I hope I'll keep this under 5 minutes so that we can all get out of here in a reasonable time. I have just a couple of quick questions. Number one, when can we expect some information on the mediation process? The process has gone on and has been totally opaque, so that residents of New Hamburg are rapidly losing faith in the board's willingness to protect the safety of our residents. We know nothing about what's happening. Therefore, we're concerned that important aspects of the regulations, which were legitimately passed a year ago, could be bargained away without our knowing about it. Those regulations were passed but never enforced. So my questions are, when can we expect information on the mediation process, and when will the regulations be enforced?
David, we met tonight with our attorneys, and most of the board members tonight were filled in for the first time. Some of them have to go home and divulge it all. There was things given back and forth. It's not a finished document. They have to go back again. Some of the board members brought other issues up again. Because I don't think anybody here on this board has given up the safety of the residents of New Hamburg. Nobody's given anything up. We're meeting and we're negotiating. We're hoping within the next week that we'll have some kind of document out. They went back and they seem like they're getting closer to some sort of an agreement. But as of now, we don't have an agreement. He came in and filled us in tonight, and he left. And they're going to go back and try to write some more stuff, and hopefully be back to us within the next week.
I hope the board can understand our frustration.
Absolutely.
Because the only reason to go to mediation is if you expect to have to give something up. The judge's decision with regard to the Bettini request for an injunction, I thought made it pretty clear, at least he made it clear to Bettini and their lawyers, that they stood little chance of that suit succeeding if it went to trial. In that case, why go to mediation at all? If it looks pretty clear from the judge who's going to be the judge in the trial, and he said he struck down virtually every aspect of the Bettini injunction request, why go to mediation if it looks like we're going to win, and if we win, Bettini pays the legal costs? So why do we have to give back things when we had already compromised to get to what we thought was not the best solution, but one that we could live with? To give back more at this stage is extremely frustrating, especially since we have no input, no feedback from you.
I understand. We're doing our best, and we think we still have the best interest, and we can't go, as I said the other day, we can't offer something up that we don't have, and it's still going back and forth. There's not a legit document yet. When we get a legit document, I will make sure you are the first one to know that it comes out, that they give us something back.
Okay, the laws were legitimately passed. When will they be enforced?
you had contact today, James, with the police department about signs.
I mean, we've been waiting and waiting. The laws are on the books. Why can't they be enforced?
If you'll pardon me, Mr. Cullen, I have suggested that the board is involved in this mediation
I mean, could you lean forward and speak so we can hear you?
Sure. My name is Jim Nelson.
I know who you are, but could you lean forward toward the microphone so we can all hear you?
Fine. My name is Jim Nelson, and I've suggested to the board that because it is involved in a mediation of an ongoing litigation, that it not comment about it. And I would hope that you would accept that.
Well, I don't know how long, though, this goes on until legitimate laws can be enforced, especially with a judge's decision on the Bettini request for an injunction that indicates pretty clearly they're going to lose. Doesn't that give us some hope that we can go ahead and at least enforce the regulations at this point in time? How conservative do we have to be?
I think I told you what I thought, and I've told you what I've recommended to the members of the town board.
It may be time to change that recommendation, I think. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board?
My name is Colin Cute. I'm a resident of New Hamburg. I'm reading 2 letters on behalf of older New Hamburg residents who were not able to make it here today. I should mention that the first one is Mary Hornbeck, who is extremely motivated by this cause to limit the truck traffic, but is more motivated to be at the Women's Auxiliary at the New Hamburg Yacht Club tonight, and kudos to her for that. She's living a good life. Here we go. My name is Mary Hornbeck. I live at 7 Division Street, 2 blocks from the intersection of Main Street and Point Street. This letter is to support the neighborhood I used to live in at 5 Main Street. My husband and I raised our children there for 23 years. We could see and hear the daily truck traffic of the oil company, cars from the train station, and traffic from the yacht club. I have lived in the village for close to 65 years. My living room at 5 Main Street was almost in the road. We heard traffic, mostly cars, and maybe about 10 oil trucks a day, as well as marina traffic, but never 18-wheel oil tankers. Sunday was a quieter day. As a residential community, this huge trucking business is ruining this town. Houses for sale will take a lot of understanding from someone to purchase them with all the truck activity. Residents will sit on their porch and watch 18-wheelers and trucks and barges deliver oil. Yes, noisy barges dispensing oil onto the tank farm. I can hear the huge generator pumping oil out of the barge into the tanks 2 blocks away now. More loud noise for a 12-hour period, plus the huge bright lights at night shining everywhere. I often wonder why our neighbor Bettini has no compassion for this town. I do hope that our town board has that compassion. I often think that the board would not want this heavy-duty traffic passing their front doors on a daily, hourly basis. Please, help our community. Thank you for that consideration. That's from Mary Hornbeck. This is a letter from Dan Fannin. He is the organ player at St. Nick's on the Hudson in the hamlet of New Hamburg. As I have mentioned to the town board on a number of occasions, as one of the few remaining intact examples of a 19th century Hudson River town, New Hamburg is more than just another dot on the map. It remains a rare, living example of the history that made the Hudson Valley, the place where our nation struggled to be born
and a place on the most noble of rivers that has been witnessed to by the lives of New Yorkers for over 200 years. What New Hamburg is not is an indentured servant to big oil with roads unfit for 18-wheelers. New Hamburg is not a place where one wealthy man can buy the law simply because he can afford it. It is not a place where one man can claim that private profit takes precedence over American history. The beauty of the Hudson River, the quality of life for a thriving neighborhood, and the safety of young children on their way to school. It comes down to this. Either the town of Poughkeepsie stands with the people of New Hamburg, or it stands with Botini Oil. The issues have been clear for over a year and are no longer debatable. And Dan is a religious man, so I'm going to add this last paragraph that he wrote. I'm going to include it, I should say. Scripture tells us that where our treasure is, there is our heart also. Tonight, let the town of Poughkeepsie make it clear that its heart is with the people of New Hamburg. Thank you.
Would you pass those to Kelly if you want to give them up so she can put them on the record? Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? If not, make a motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye. Good night.